Hello and welcome to a tutorial about Kitchener stitch, also known as grafting, from Imagine Landscapes Designs. Grafting or Kitchener stitch helps us unite two sets of fabric, whether it is two pieces knit and flat as I have here, or you have one piece knit in the round and you want to sort of finish it off without a hard seam. Grafting creates a bridge of stockinette fabric, at least in this version we'll do stockinette fabric, between two pieces so that there isn't a seam line. So let's talk about how to do that. At its core, we are going to have a stockinette side and a reverse stockinette side. So I've got two pieces, both of them stockinette, and I am going to take them and I'm going to place them wrong sides together with the yarn coming off the back. So at its core, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be knitting off the front and purling off the back. And I'll explain what that means. But each stitch needs to be worked twice. Each stitch needs to be secured so it doesn't just go off all crazy like, and then it needs to be worked. So first we're going to do the securing part. All right, so we are going to go through this first stitch purlwise. So inserting our needle away from the tip as we would for a purl stitch. Pull the yarn through. And then we're going to go through the back one knitwise. So I need to bring my needle up in between and go through it knitwise and bring the yarn all the way through. As you can see here, we're kind of weaving around things, and so that's what's coming there. And then we pull it not too tight, just tight enough so that it's roughly the same distance as before. So we've now secured those. What we're going to be doing when we work Kitchener stitch or graft is we're going to work a stitch knitwise, and then we're going to purl and leave on. Sometimes people get confused by Kitchener stitch, and so I'm going to show you the simple process, and then I'm going to show you kind of how I remember what to do. So we've secured this front stitch. So we're going to insert our yarn, our needle knitwise and come off. Then we're going to go through the second stitch on the front purlwise and leave on. Then we're going to go to the back. We've already secured this, so we're going to go purlwise into that loop and off. And then we're going to go knitwise through the second stitch on the back to secure it. And we're going to leave it on. All right. So you may find when you're pulling the yarn between the first stitches that it kind of wants to catch. There'll be a little bit of a corner there and it might want to catch, and you might just need to kind of pull this up and over that. You may have noticed I did that. All right, so it's knitwise off, purlwise on, purlwise off, knitwise on. So when I do this, I chant knit off, purl on, knit or purl off, knit on. And what we're basically doing is we're doing the opposite to secure. So this was, we go knitwise off, and then we can purlwise through secure. So we're on the knit side, so securing is purl. I don't know if that helps you, but it's kind of like we're doing the opposite. And see how it's kind of catching along there? I just need to push it up and over, and then it bridges between the two halves of the fabric. Okay, so purlwise off, knitwise on. Now you may have noticed that you don't have to go all the way through. You can just stick your yarn through or your needle through for the second half of that stitch or the second half of the maneuver right away. So you don't need to go through a stitch and pull your needle, pull till it's all the way through. You can kind of go, sorry, I'm doing that wrong. Purlwise off. Now I don't need to pull the needle all the way through. I can just leave that here, go knitwise through this one, and then pull the needle once through both loops. Okay, and when we're pulling tight, we want what we're doing to be roughly the same size as the stitches around it, because what we're actually doing is we're creating a bridge of stockinette, a row there. So we've got the stockinette here, we've got the stockinette here, and we are creating a row in between. So when you're pulling tight, don't pull too tight, because then this row of stitches will be like tiny and rigid, and it won't have the same flex as the stitches around it. Okay, so we've secured it and we've left it on. We're gonna go knitwise off, purlwise on, purlwise off, knitwise on. All right, now here we are with just one stitch per needle left, and we need to stop and talk about this because there's something that needs to go on here. Just like at the beginning, we needed to secure the stitches first because they hadn't been secured. Well, at the end, there are no stitches to secure. So we go knitwise, but then there's nothing to purl and leave on. So we're gonna kind of only do the front half of knitwise off, purl on, purlwise off, knit on. We're just gonna take it knitwise off, purlwise off, and then we can go through those last two stitches and we have our stockinette fabric bridging those two pieces. So as you can see, we had started with two pieces. We started with them with their wrong sides together, and we created this row right here. We created this row right here as we did that process. And there is no ridge, there is no extra set of stitches or any fabric there. And so Kitchener stitch is great for sock toes because it doesn't have a seam that rubs your toes and could create blisters. And if you need to, you can go into this row and you can kind of pull the fabric across. So if this one turned out to be an especially loose and floppy stitch, you can go beside it and sort of tug things over. Or if it's a very tight stitch, you can kind of tug things over to that and kind of even things out. And it's a good idea every few stitches as you work to just sort of stop and look and say, hey, how is this doing? How is my fabric? Are the stitches sort of nice and soft and flexible, or are they rigid, or are they floppy because they're too loose? So this has been a tutorial about Kitchener stitch, also known as grafting. I hope that I've taken a little bit of the fear out of it. Remember, knitwise off, purlwise on. Purlwise off, knitwise on. And that's basically the way it works.